Residential site valuation and cost approach, page 68, page 69, chapter 6, calculating costs. Chapter overview. The proper development of various costing components is important to the cost approach. This chapter begins by discussing hard costs, soft costs, and profit considerations for a structure. The chapter focuses on the square foot method for calculating building cost, since it is one of the more common methods. This chapter includes detailed analysis and sample cost manual data to provide practice with a case study example. There are also brief discussions of other cost methods used in different situations: comparative unit, quantity survey, unit in place, and index methods. Extra note: get familiar with ANSI. Extra note: add the stairwell. Fanny references ANSI. If you get caught American measuring standards. Extra note: Google ANSI square footage printout. ANSI, American National Standards Institute, responsible for gross living area standards. Comparative unit method, a method for determining the cost of a building that uses the cost of recently built comparable buildings as a basis for estimating the cost of replacing the subject property. Direct costs, costs in a project that are not variable, such as labor and materials, also called hard costs. Entrepreneurial incentive, a dollar value attributable for the expertise and efforts provided in the connection of the development, such as the entrepreneur's expertise, skills, and involvement with development, for instance, leasing, selling of the project. Entrepreneurial profit, a figure derived from the market representing an amount received by the entrepreneur for his contributions and risk accepted in a project. Gross living area, GLA, residential space that is finished, livable, and above grade. Garages, finished basements, and storage areas usually do not count as gross living area. Index method, a method for determining the cost of a building by taking its original cost and multiplying that number by an index factor based on how long ago the building was constructed. Indirect costs, costs in a project that are variable, costs other than labor or materials, also called soft costs. Extra note for GLA: never add the garage. Index method, a commercial tool. Page 70, building costs. When using the cost approach, there are several different types of costs which must be calculated. Some of the more obvious costs for a new structure are building materials and labor, but there are numerous other costs involved with construction. Everything from taxes and insurance to zoning, change fees, and legal fees are all part of the cost to consider. Even the time value of money or the interest paid on the money used to finance the project must be considered for projects that will take a substantial amount of time to complete. The appraiser must be sure to consider all costs, direct costs and indirect costs, for a reliable indication of the cost new of a structure. Direct costs. Direct costs are the costs in a project that are not variable, such as labor and materials. These are also referred to as hard costs. In addition to paying for the labor and buying all the materials needed to build a structure, the contractors has included their profit as part of the direct costs, since it is part of the construction contract. There are actually a number of different ways that the appraiser can calculate these direct costs when doing an appraisal. Indirect costs. Indirect costs are the costs in a project that are in many cases variable. In other words, all costs for a project other than labor, materials, and equipment. These are also referred to as soft costs. When looking at these costs, there are a number of items that the appraiser should overlook, such as taxes, insurance, sales commissions, professional fees for legal and accounting work, and many others. These fees are considered variable because they often increase as the project moves forward. Direct costs, indirect costs. Under direct costs, you have materials and labor, building permits, equipment costs, utility installation and cost, contractor's profit, construction site security. Under indirect costs, you have real estate taxes during construction, engineering fees, architectural fees, appraisal fees, accounting fees, legal fees, insurance during construction, marketing costs and commissions, interest and expenses on any loans during construction. Entrepreneurial profit and incentive. This was a test question. Entrepreneurial profit and/or incentive is an amount of money left after all costs have been paid. This concept was introduced in Chapter 3. For many residential construction projects, the developer's profit is stated as entrepreneurial profit. But in some more complex projects, there could be both. Here is a review of these terms. Entrepreneurial profit represents an economic reward received by the entrepreneur for his contributions and a risk accepted in a project. Extra note, GAR, G-A-R, has a good Facebook page. Craigslist scam, vacant home. The profit is the reward for risk. Extra note.